Welcome back, everybody, and happy Thursday morning to you. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. I apologize that we're getting started a little bit late. Had a very, important business call that I had to tend to before we got everything started today. But I do want to talk a lot about Mike Matthews, the current state of this team as a whole from top to bottom. We'll talk about some transfer portal stuff. We'll talk about, the coaching staff. We'll talk some about the CFP. Obviously, Oregon going out there and getting blown out about the same way that Tennessee did versus Ohio State. What does that mean? Does that change how I feel about this team and some of the changes that we need to make? We'll talk about all of that today. Please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And actually, I'm going to start this one off a little bit different. We're going to get to some of these chats because I do see that there's several of them in here. So starting off with Robert Young, thank you for joining us today, saying that the concern meter is up for sure now. I don't understand how we are losing so many guys and always getting outbid by someone in the portal. It feels like only misses other than Nico and Sanders. So very interesting because we will also be talking about Zach Branch and his brother. Sounds like they're down in South Florida visiting Miami today. I know that I know that they visited Georgia as well. There's another school that they visited, and I can't recall exactly who that is. But I know that Texas is also in the mix. For us to come out and be pretty vocal. And I don't know how much of that is from the staff pushing that to on threes. People like Nakos and all those guys that came out and said, hey, Tennessee is going all in to bring in Zach and his brother, Zach Branch and his brother Zion Branch, or what, just at least for that visit. No visit has been set up yet, to my knowledge. But I do think that this visit down to South Florida was already set up maybe before everything else kind of transpired. So hopefully we will still be able to get that visit. That's going to be huge because obviously that wide receiver room, it's looking pretty bare at this point. We've got, with Mike Matthews now hitting the portal, I think he is officially in at this point. I've been watching on threes portal, and actually I'm going to refresh it real quick to see if he's popped up just yet. I don't see him popped up there just yet, but everything has been kind of trending towards he is going to be hitting the portal and all the insiders, the people who are a lot closer to this stuff, y'all, than I am. They're saying that, if Mike Matthews does hit the portal, then it's probably not a good sign for us to be able to retain him with Tennessee. And, I kind of feel that way just based off of common sense as well. But, that wide receiver room, listen, we've got 2 scholarship wide receivers that will be veterans. Then we have 3 coming in. That would be true freshmen, and that is not a good place to be. That's just not a good place to be. We will talk some about Kelsey Pope as well. Let me get to the next chat right here. I'm going to do my best, y'all, to get to as many chats as I possibly can today. This one right here is from CFB Incorporated. Thank you for joining us today, saying that Robert Young, Matthews is in the portal because Hypo didn't give into Matthews' money demands. So I can't tell you how true that is. I really can't. I can just only go based off of what I've heard from the people that I trust. That's the insiders. Typically, that's going to be from on three. I trust, Brent Hubbs, Austin Price. I trust those guys because I've been following them for a very long time. They don't really miss very often. So, and they're very close to this stuff. So what it sounded like before, this is going to be more of what they were told. Sounds more like they were told that Mike Matthews hit the portal because he saw that Nico could potentially hit the portal. No one knew what was going to happen there. So, it sounds like that's why he hit the portal. But for me, and I think that they might be saying the exact same thing, as things tend to, unwind and unfold, you see, okay, well, Nico's back. So if that was the real reason for Mike Matthews hitting the portal, then he would have came back. He hasn't done that. So I have seen, and we've talked about it on this channel several times, that you could tell that Mike Matthews was visibly frustrated for whatever reason. I don't know if it was from a lack of targets, from a lack of playing time, from both, from whatever. We can speculate all day long, but I could tell from his body language, from how he's playing as a former player, as a guy that's been around football for my entire life. Y'all probably saw the exact same things. It's just a little bit more difficult to see it watching the actual game copy as opposed to the all 22, which is what P and I have access to on this channel. Whenever you watch the all 22, you could tell that Mike Matthews was frustrated with something. So I don't know how much of it is strictly about money. I just don't think that Mike Matthews wants to be here. Now, that's my personal opinion. That is not, don't take that as that's like some fact or some law. I'm talking to you just like you would talk to any of your other buddies that are Tennessee fans. These are just my thoughts. That's all. I don't know how Mike Matthews feels. I have not talked to him personally. I have not talked to his family personally. So I don't know. Maybe it is about money. You could be right on that. I just wanted to point that out, that we don't know exactly what it is. So I'm not going to get up here and bash these kids. That's not what I do. That's not what we do on this channel. We are not here to bash the kids that we can tell have put in, maximum effort. Now, there were some times, as you can tell, that Mike Matthews was probably taking some plays off because he was frustrated. But I kind of feel him. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a talent like that, why aren't they playing? We've talked about that for a long time on this channel. We've got to rotate in bodies, especially these really good ones. And I think that's something that the staff is learning from. So that's just, not to get on some soapbox and all that, but I think that's a very big thing moving forward for us to be able to retain the players that we have, that we've gone out and spent all the time to bring onto this roster. We have to be able to retain these guys moving forward. I think that the team that does that the best, that can actually, kind of build up from the ground up with their players that they get from high school, those are the teams that moving forward in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years will have a better program, because I don't know if you can necessarily live out of the portal. I just don't know if that's, I don't know if that's realistic. You can go out and supplement from the portal, but I don't think that you want to live and die there. So that's just my 2 cents. Right here from Deep Patel. Thank you for joining us, saying, is it official? He's in the portal. So from everything that I've been reading and seeing, I know that he is in the portal with 24/7 Sports. I actually checked that several hours ago. He was in the portal with them. But as far as On3, for some reason, it feels like they're a little bit late to some of the portal stuff with their website. I don't see him showing up just yet, and I will refresh that again, because we know this stuff changes by the second. This is all right, so he's still not there. All right, so yeah, I would say that at this point, the speculation from the insiders was by about 10:30 this morning, and I would anticipate that would be on Eastern Standard Time. So for me, it's about 11:30. I haven't seen anything that says that Mike Matthews has pulled his name away from the portal. So I would say, yeah, it probably is official at this point that he's in the portal. And if he's in the portal, he's probably not coming back. So from CFB Incorporated, another one from him or her saying, I'm not sure, but if not yet, it will be today. Okay, so, and he or she is also saying that he is in UT. Okay, so listen, I could be off on that. Please don't take it as because I'm going off of what I can see, off of what I can touch. He might not be in the portal. Maybe he did decide to come back to UT. And if y'all know that, please let me know, because whenever I'm doing these streams and stuff, it's hard for me to stay on top of all the up-to-date information. Like whatever I see pre-show, that's what we're going to roll with. Also saying there's no change. There's no chance he stays. Okay. All right. So now he's saying something a little bit different. Let's see what Cooper McCree and Mike Matthews to Penn State. I think that's so it says PSU. I would anticipate that that's probably Penn State. Man, that would be crazy. I could kind of see it, though, because I think that their quarterback might be sticking around for one more season. They need some outside threats, but they haven't done a whole lot with the outside wide receivers. So I could see it, but at the same time, I don't know. That's maybe speculation. I'm not going to say that that's right or wrong, because I do not know. So from Matthew Wilkins saying, just got to flush the loss of Mike Matthews quickly and move on. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I've been there for like the past, I would say, like day and a half. There's still plenty of targets out there, and Tennessee needs to get aggressive. So with all that being said, let's actually talk about, there are several players that we did get some information from the insiders yesterday. And, I did my best to try to stay up to date while I'm watching the games and doing everything else. I did my best to stay up to date with what's going on with Tennessee inside of the portal, who are we targeting. So at this point, it sounds like we have 3 more targets. Obviously, we talked earlier in this video, in this stream, about Zachariah Branch visiting Miami today. I'm starting to feel a little bit less confident with that. I need to see that he's going to at least come up on campus. If he comes up on campus, my confidence goes from, at this point, I'm at about, I'm going to say 45% that he will end up at Tennessee. If he comes up on campus, I'm going to be at about a 95%, because once he comes up on campus, he's going to love it. Now, something I have noticed with him and his brother, kind of feels like everywhere that they visited has been better climate conditions. Georgia, down in Athens, obviously me growing up in Georgia, I know the climate very well. It's typically very nice, like most of the time. Actually, today I don't know what the actual weather is and all that, but it's not super cold. It's not snowing. It's actually pretty sunny. It's not gloomy. But it stays like this for the most part. We might get one good solid snow, but we do actually experience different climates. Like we're going to see some of the seasons, not as much as you would see on the East Coast and in different places, but we do get some seasons here. It's totally different from a Southern California, which is where they're going to be coming from, to maybe even in Austin, Texas. I don't really know what their climate is like. It might be similar to Georgia's. I would anticipate that it's going to be more similar to Georgia's than maybe it would be to like a LA. A lot more similar to Georgia probably than, like a South Florida, because down there they don't see very many climates. So maybe that's something that's big for them. And I don't blame them. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I'll tell you straight up. I would much rather be in a place where it stays sunny for most of the season, or for most of the year, as opposed to even having to go through any of the climate changes in the seasons and stuff. I do like the climate changes personally, but I don't know what they're looking at. So that's something that I didn't notice. That's the whole point right there. But I don't know. We'll see. Can we get him up on campus? But if he, let's just kind of switch gears to a guy like Matthews. Does he really want to go up there? Because you're going up to Pennsylvania, man, it snows up there for real. Like you're going to see real seasons. And he's a Georgia boy, just like me. Typically, we don't really take to that sort of that's a huge culture shock for us. Huge culture shock. That is a whole different ball game. So I don't know. Maybe that's where he's at with it. Maybe it's not. But I do want to kind of flip the page and talk some about some of the portal targets that we've heard from the insiders that Tennessee is targeting. And I'm going to start off with Malik Benson from Florida State. So these are going to be some of his clips. It's not a lot of them. These are just going to be some of the vertical game. So right there, you see him lined up inside of the slot. But to me, he's more of an outside body. He is a senior this year. I think that he will be able to come back for one more year. I don't know how the COVID stuff is working at this point. 6'1", 195 pounds. He has good speed. I think that he was clocked at about 21 miles per hour. I think that's what I saw. So that's pretty comparable to what Tennessee has with our wide receivers, or what we had with our wide receivers this past season. But I like him because he's a tougher guy. Again, we know that we need outside presence, because to me, that's the biggest place. We could probably skate by with just Braylon Staley, and maybe you could, rotate in Jackson some as well. You probably still need to go out and get at least another body at that position. That's a scholarship sort of a player, because there are some players that, are more walk-on bodies that maybe Tennessee could kind of fit in there. But for me, it's about who are we going to bring in as outside players for this team, because we do need some depth there, especially with Mike Matthews now being in the portal. It feels like he's going to be gone. So I think that, Benson is a player that could come in and potentially start. He could earn himself a starting spot. Now, we know from the 2025 class, the freshman, guys like Travis Smith, 6'3", 200 pounds. He's a freshman, but he is a baller. All those guys, all three of the guys that we're bringing in, they're all really good. How quickly can they get acclimated to playing college ball? Because there is a difference. It is different. You got to be able to pick that up very, very quickly. But I think that it might all be up on campus early. At least I hope that they are. The ones that are up early, they're definitely going to get the opportunity. But I think this, Cedric Benson, again, we're just looking at more of the vertical stuff, but even his intermediate stuff, it looks good to me. He runs good routes, very tough, very physical. He does have some drops and stuff, but we know that Florida State, to me, there's a lot to be said about the culture with your team. There's a lot to be said about that. How do you feel? Like, what's the whole vibe of that locker room? Because if the vibe is on an upward stick, you're going to see players doing a lot more. They're going to produce more because they're feeling better. Yeah, listen, Deion Sanders said this: look good, feel good, play good. You know what I'm saying? That is so real I think in everything in life. But maybe he wasn't in the best situation there. But from what I've seen there, to me, that's his floor. Looks good. Looks really good. He actually reminds me a lot of like a Cedric Tillman. Might not be as big as a Cedric Tillman. I want to say Cedric Tillman was about 6'2", 6'3", might have been a little bit over 200 pounds, but very similar with his style of play. Going to make those tough catches. That's what I want on the outside. Can you help out Nico? Can you help out the rest of our, quarterbacks, whoever gets rotated in? Can you be a guy that they can count on, that they can throw the football to in single coverage, double coverage? You look like you're kind of blanketed, but you're going to go make those tough catches. I think that he's one of those guys. You need those guys. You definitely need that. So not a whole lot of after the catch stuff from him, but, maybe he'll kind of pick that up. Maybe we'll pick that, we'll pick up some things within our scheme that could help him do those, that could help him do those things. Let's go on to the next player at defensive tackle. And this is going to be David. Let me see if I can, hold on, let me pause this guy. David Gusta. Okay, so he's from Washington State. And these are going to be his clips from this previous season. He's going to be more of, to me, like the big O, Big E that we know that we definitely need. He's only 6'3", 303 pounds. So what he's listed at, to me on film, he looks bigger than that. So that could happen sometimes. Maybe they didn't want to show his real size. I would say he's got to be about 310 at least. Like, that's what he looks like to me. But I could be off on that. If he wants to be like a big O or a big E, he needs to get up to about 315. Can he gain 15 pounds within our system if we can get him up on campus early enough and still maintain his, say, speed and his burst? I think that he could, but he looks very good. Looks a lot like our, again, Big O and Big E. He looks a lot like those guys with his movements. Very, he has really good twitch to him. You know what I'm saying? Very quick off of the snap of the football, and he can definitely plug up gaps. He does a good job of disengaging with blockers. So, can he keep our linebackers clean and still be able to make plays if the plays are coming right to his gap? I think that he's one of those players. And I'm always going to trust Coach G. He knows what he's doing. Anybody that he wants to target, because, look, we talked about it before with Omar Norman Lott. When we first saw his film, we said we can see the twitch. We can see why Coach G wants him. But at that point, Omar Norman Lott with Arizona State was not playing with that passion that he played with Tennessee. Now Coach G's turned him into a first rounder. You know what I'm saying? So I'm fine with that. I think that that's a very good player. The next guy that we're going to talk about is at running back, and this is going to be Angel Johnson. It's coming from South Dakota State. I don't remember if Coach Heupel is from South Dakota or if it's North Dakota or what, but either way, that's kind of like his neck of the woods. But I think he's a really good player. 5'9", 195 pounds. Looks a lot like most of the running backs that Coach Heupel has had with Tennessee. He does a great job of pressing up to the line of scrimmage, being patient, and then showing that burst through those creases. And he runs hard. He runs very hard. He has good straight line speed. I actually don't have his miles per hour. I wish that I would have got that for you, but you can see that here. And he is playing in a lower classification at this point. But for me, that's exactly what Tennessee wanted to do. Go out and get you a running back that's coming from a lower classification that fits into our scheme well, because running backs are kind of a dime a dozen. You don't want to go out and get those bigger names that will maybe discourage some of the players that you have right now on the roster that are scholarship guys. You don't want for them to feel like, hey, in the spring, we need to hit the portal and go somewhere else. You don't want that, because then you're back to square one. Currently, we would have 4 scholarship bodies. If we can add an Angel Johnson, then we would have 5, and I think that we'll be fine. But yeah, everything that I've seen from him on film looks really good. You know what I'm saying? His name's not going to jump out to a whole lot of fans, and that's perfectly fine. But you got to understand, that's not everything with football. It's not about the names. Sometimes it's about getting the players that fit the whole vibe of the locker room, that fit our scheme. And I think that Angel Johnson, hopefully y'all feel the same way just in seeing some of the All-22 film. But yeah, he's one of those guys that should be able to fit in very well with what Tennessee has. And, he could probably fight for, I would say, like the top 3. You know what I'm saying? Which is what we want, because we have 2 guys that are more like veterans and 2 guys that would be true freshmen coming in. I trust, I like all those guys. I can't say that I trust those true freshmen yet because I haven't seen them up on campus just yet. But I think that they've got all the capabilities to get things done. So wanted to get that out of the way first, right? I wanted to let y'all see that, let y'all know who we're targeting. I know, again, the names don't wow you, but looking at them play, hopefully y'all have some confidence. Now, at wide receiver, I think at this point with Mike Matthews more than likely hitting the portal and probably not going to be coming back, I think that we need to go out and target. I'm going to say, I would say at least 2, but maybe 3 guys we need to go out there and get. I don't know how close we are with Benson from Florida State, but, I think he's almost a must-have. We got to be able to get Branch up on campus, because adding another body to the slot, that would be a must-have. So then you add another body on the outside, and I think that Tennessee would be perfectly fine moving forward. It's not, I think that Mike Matthews has a ton of talent. He's got a super high ceiling, but if he doesn't want to be here, if he's going to be taking plays off like we saw some last season, that's not, it doesn't really matter how good you are if you're not playing up to your capabilities. I don't know that Mike Matthews always gave us 100% effort. That's just what I saw on film. That's all. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah, we still have a little ways to go. And with all that being said, let's talk a little bit about Coach Pope, because Bray, my cousin Sean, we all talked about that yesterday. If we have a very, if we don't have as many numbers as we need inside the wide receiver room, I think that you do need to look at Coach Pope. I think that Coach Hypo might need to make a change there. And the reason that I feel more strongly to say that in front of everyone right now on this live stream is because whenever I hear longtime Vol for life, Jason Swain come out and I don't want to put the words inside of his mouth because he didn't come out and say this, but this is the way that I took it. It's kind of like, yeah, we need to make some changes with the wide receiver room. That can mean a million different things. So I'm not saying that Jason Swain said this by any means. Please don't take it that way. That's not what I'm saying. But that's just the way that I kind of took it. It's like maybe we need to make a change right there, maybe with the coaching. And it doesn't necessarily mean that Coach Pope has to go, because I do think that Coach Pope is a good coach. He's a younger coach. He's done some very nice things. I don't want to see him just go, but I think that there needs to be some sort of changes there. Do you want to bring in someone else that maybe could resonate better with these players? That could be a possibility, but something does need to be done there, because right now Tennessee is going to have to more than likely overspend to bring in wide receivers, because if you look at what we did over the past couple of seasons with the wide receiver room, there's not a whole lot of numbers for us to point to and say, hey, look, this wide receiver did this wide receiver did that. Now, wide receivers, and I think pretty much every single player should feel the exact same way, that, hey, we can see where we could be better in these spots, where we can be better here because we feel like we're better players. You want to bring in guys like that. You want to bring in those types of, players that feel that way, that, hey, I don't care if I'm running hitches and if I'm running go routes and if I'm just running slants, I expect to win. That's the type of mentality that you need, because that's what's going to win you national championships. You need that. That to me, that's sort of like a base thing. But so I don't know. I'm not necessarily calling for his job, but there are some other coaches out there that have done a really, excellent job of bringing in players from the high school ranks and building them up. The problem, y'all, is that this is not previous seasons. This is a whole different ball game with the transfer portal, with NIL. It's so different. It is a totally different thing. I don't know how these college coaches deal with it, and I want to give them a ton of credit because I know that they're doing a lot all the time. This is one of the most demanding jobs, I think, in this country. I think that they're all underpaid, every single one of them. But I did actually do a little bit of research last night, y'all, and I looked at what Coach Kelsey Pope is getting paid. If I'm not mistaken, not to be counting people's pockets, but if I'm not mistaken, his salary is at about $550,000. And then, if you look at a guy like Dennis Simmons from USC, who we talked about before, wide receivers coach, he's done a whole lot of very nice things. Again, the game is changing up some, but I like the way that his wide receivers look this past season at SC. I think he's at about, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say maybe 600,000. It's either 500 or 600,000. So it's within the same ballpark. I mean, I don't know. And I feel like he's a guy that we could bring in and maybe maybe be kind of like a play calling coordinator to help out, because I do want for Coach Heupel to go outside of his comfort zone, to go outside of just going and getting, guys that are from the Oklahoma coaching tree or from his own coaching tree, players that he's coached or, players or coaches that he's coached with and all that type of stuff. I would like to see him go out and just get some fresh ideas. For me, Dennis Simmons will be a guy that, hey, we could probably pay him $750, maybe even a full meal. I don't know how much money we have. I'm just throwing stuff out there, y'all. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Maybe we pay him $1 million. Say, hey, listen, coach our wide receivers. Hypothetically speaking, coach our wide receivers, and also be some extra outside eyes and ears for our plays that we're running, for our passing game, for our play calling. Can you help us out there too? I feel like that would be worth it. I think that would be a really, really good thing. Let me actually get to this right here, because it looks like we have a new member. We got to get to that. That's very important. And listen, we appreciate all the members of this channel, everyone that's liking and subscribing. That helps us out in a very, very major way. That does not cost you a dime. You can also donate to the channel by scanning the Cash App QR code in the top right-hand corner of this video with your smartphone or whatever. And also the links will be down in the description below for all of this. You can donate as little as $1. That helps us out in a very, very major way. But let me get to this right here from Money Controls It All. Hey, appreciate you becoming a member of this channel, and we are going to play the clip for you because that's huge for us on this channel. That keeps us growing, and we are still a very, very small channel, and we're going to be careful with what we say, how we handle things, because the channel is growing. But let me go ahead and play the clip. Thank you so much for that. Money controls it all. That is huge. All right. So I know I've kind of been like rambling on. I have a whole lot of stuff to say, but I do want to get to because we are right now talking about coaches. I want to get to the new offensive analyst or quarterback analyst, Landry Jones, who played college ball at Oklahoma. I think that he actually might have played up under Coach Heupel whenever Coach Heupel was there. But, quarterback did some really, really nice things. And obviously he goes on to the league. I think he played there for 7, 8, 9 years or something. So I know that he played with the Steelers for a while. That's a very good organization. I think that's a really good pickup. Now, I have seen on some of the message boards, people are like, oh, man, Heupel's got to get outside of his comfort zone. With things like that, like we're talking about analysts. Analysts are not going to have a very, large presence as far as what's getting done, but they can be a fresh voice. And Tennessee needed to add that analyst. And I'm fine with Coach Heupel maybe kind of sticking to his comfort zone with that. But if we're talking about some of the bigger things, I think that is where Coach Heupel needs to maybe branch out, bring in some fresh ideas. That's what I personally would like to see. I don't have all the answers, y'all. I do not. I don't know all the answers. It's just my thought process, because I do feel like if you're looking at our offense, the way that it's operated for the past couple of seasons, I mean, listen, teams are starting to figure it out. It's more and more teams every year. So I can see a place where Tennessee could go backwards next season as more teams are figuring things out with our offensive scheme. If we don't add to it, you have got to continue to add. You can't just keep on doing the same stuff and think that you're going to somehow get better. That's not how this works. You got to add wrinkles to it. And I think that the best way to do it is for Coach Heupel to say, hey, I'm not going to hire some of these analysts and bring them up that maybe haven't coached on a higher level before, that don't have different, that didn't come from a different tree. You need to bring in people from a different tree to add to what you have. That's what I want to see. That would make me feel a lot more comfortable, but that's just me. So let me get back to some more of these chats and real quick. And I know that I probably, I always lose where we leave off at, because listen, y'all doing a great job bringing in y'all's thoughts, and I appreciate it greatly, 100%. Let me see where we're at. Okay, so I think that we're right here with the wise man saying he's in for sure. He just checked the 24/7 tracker. All right. And then Matthew Wilkins is also saying Noah Thomas, Zach Branch, Donovan Green, many ballers out there with size and speed. Okay, so I haven't checked on all those players. Okay, I will take your word for it, because I'm sure that you know what you're looking at. But I haven't checked on all those players. So I can't tell you. I don't really even know who most of those guys are. I know who Zach Branch is, obviously. But Donovan Green and Noah Thomas, I don't even know who they are. I'm going to tell you straight up. So I can't speak to how they would fit into our system. But I will go and research them, and I'll, on the next stream, we'll talk about it. From the wise man saying he is on 24/7 if you go to the team page. Yeah, so I knew that he was on the 24/7 thing, but for me, I was waiting to see when is he going to show up with On 3. That was the one that I was waiting on, because he's been with 24/7 since last night. I just refreshed On 3, still don't see him there, but that doesn't really, like I said, they're pretty late to the transfer portal stuff, so I think that he is officially in the portals. So from Rains Cook saying, with around 8 wide receivers leaving and the rumors of the wide receivers not liking the coaching, are you aware of the credibility of that? I don't. So I've seen some things that look like it actually came from the players. I think some of the insiders have confirmed that it was real stuff coming from the players that have left, that weren't playing very much, that were like, yeah, we don't necessarily care for Coach Pope. But I've said it. You got to be cautious with taking that type of stuff. You got to take it with a grain of salt, because you don't know how much of that's real and how much of it is, maybe they feel some type of way. I think that they're going to feel some type of way, for me. But at the same time, we have lost a whole lot of players. And, Squirrel White would be one that played a lot. I think he played more than he should have last season, just based off the fact that he wasn't 100%. If you're a wide receiver and if you can't lift 2 arms up to be able to make a catch, you shouldn't be playing. And I put that on Coach Pope. I put that on Coach Heupel too. How in the world could you allow that to happen? I put that on the training staff as well. So that would be one that to me is kind of an outlier. I don't know that he said anything negative about Coach Pope, but now we're losing guys like Mike Matthews. To me, I think that he's been frustrated because he didn't play as much, because he looked around. He saw Ryan Williams. He saw Jeremiah Smith. And I'm going to tell you, listen, what Jeremiah Smith is doing is crazy. We told y'all that, this was preseason. I saw some of the Buckeyes spring practice clips. I said it immediately. It does not take long to be able to know what you're looking at. I said, dude, he's Julio Jones when Julio Jones was in the league. Like, that's what he was. You saw that. Like, that was very obvious. Big, explosive, strong, really strong hands. Very difficult to stop. How they lost the game, you got to put that on Ryan Day. Now, they did look a lot better versus Oregon and versus Tennessee. I think that Ryan Day stepped back after some guys like Caleb Downs, who we know is a dog. You know, he comes from P&I and Brand I, comes from our neck of the woods. We don't play that getting blown out. Like, we don't play losing games that we shouldn't lose. Not to say other folks don't, but I know here it's different. Football is really life. It really, really is. So I think that in that players only meeting that the Buckeyes called, and they only brought in one coach, and that was Ryan Day. I think that, and I don't know this for a fact, but just based off of some of the stuff that I've read and seen, I'm sure that y'all have seen some of the same stuff. Man, look, Caleb Downs went in on him. They said he was one of the more vocal guys in that meeting. Sounds like he really went in. And maybe Ryan Day said, look, I'm going to take a step back and let some of my coordinators take over, because they're doing some different stuff. Their offense, there's several wrinkles that they've added. You know, I've been hard on the OC there, Kelly. I've been hard on him. But, man, that they're getting things going. And then on defense, we talked about their cornerbacks being a huge liability. Their cornerbacks, check it out. Like, go back and watch the game again. Go back and watch them versus Tennessee and then versus Oregon. The cornerbacks are 10 to 15 yards off the ball. They're like, hey, if you're going to beat them, you're going to have to beat them down the field. We're going to have them basically one-on-one, or you're going to have to, beat them with some underneath stuff and dink and dunk all the way down the field. I think that is a place that hopefully Texas can take advantage of with the Buckeyes secondary and with their defensive scheme. But they pretty much put those cornerbacks back, say, hey, y'all ain't playing up, y'all not playing bump and run coverage because y'all can't do that. We're going to put you in the best positions to win. And they're letting all the other, all that talent on that roster just eat. They just eat. Like, I'm going to tell you straight up, they look a lot better than I thought that they would, because I came into this game, from last night. I thought that Oregon would be able to win. Ohio State looks crazy good right now. They look really, really good. And actually, I do want to first, we're going to get to this super chat because I do see the one just came in. We're going to get to that first. And then I want to show you some of the roster stuff from the playoff teams. So this right here is from our dog, very close friend of the channel, 10 Vols 1084. Thank you so much for $19.99. Thank you for that. Saying Happy New Year, Bull. And he's saying, at Richie Dubs, what year did you graduate from OSU? Can you explain why OSU has exactly one more national title than Tennessee in less than 25 years, even though you view them as such a big-time program? Hey, look, talk your talk, dog. I love to see that. Let me go and play the clip for you. 10 Vols, talk to them, man. Like, whenever they come in here, wanting to kind of beat their chest. Now I'm upset that I even said anything positive about y'all. But this is why, for me, and if you've been a friend of this channel, if you've been watching us for some time, y'all know how much I hate Georgia. I would go for the Taliban All-Stars or the ISIS All-Stars versus Georgia. I'm at the point right now, if Georgia ends up seeing Ohio State, I don't know who I'm going for. I might be going for Georgia. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if I can even do it. I've never gone for Georgia in my entire life. Ever. Never done that. But the Buckeye fans are just so annoying. Like, they're a different level. I mean, Georgia fans, they're, they get on your nerves. They're ignorant. But, man, seeing how the Buckeyes were just reeling and kind of like hat in hand talking pregame before Tennessee, they come out, they beat a roster that they're way better than. I mean, you should have killed us. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really should have. We're about to pull that up here in just a minute. You should have done that. And now all of a sudden they're out there beating their chest. They're front running cowards. I don't like that. I don't like if you're going to talk some trash, you talk it before, during, and after a game. You don't wait till after you win and then talk. I don't like that. That bothers me, because what it tells me is you were afraid of winning, or you were afraid that you were going to lose. So you were quiet, and, you was watching, but you was quiet. But then after you won, you wanted to, be that typical front running coward. I do not like Ohio State by any means. I will never cheer for them unless, like I said, maybe versus Georgia. So anyway, yeah, they have some very, very annoying fans. I've heard some really bad things about the Vol fans that went up to Columbus. But let me go ahead and let's talk about some of these rosters. Okay, so this is going to be from 24/7 Sports. A lot of y'all have already seen this, but this is breaking down the rosters of the playoff team. So Boise State right now, we see that all they have is one blue chip player, and it's just one 4-star. That's kind of what we've been talking about. That's a game that, yeah, Penn State should have absolutely blown them out in. And then you'll understand why as we go through this. Now, Indiana, 10 4-stars. So that would actually be less than Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is at, I want to say 12 4-stars. So they made it to the playoffs. Not a very talented roster. And, Notre Dame handled them for most of that game. Now, I give them credit. I give the coaching staff credit for doing more with less. They came back in that game and they made it relatively competitive towards the end. Even though we all understand with football, once you get up by a large margin, you start to sit on the ball. You start to take your starters out and things like that. But next, we have Arizona State, who went toe-to-toe with Texas. And, man, we felt like this could happen. All they have is 18 4-stars, So this 18 blue chip players, that's very, very low. And, again, you'll see that as we go through this. But I love their coach. What's his name? I think it's like Willingham or something. Man, I love him. We talked about that for a while. And he's only 35 years old. I love these coaches that play with guts. You know what I'm saying? Like, spill your guts out. Go out there and play with everything. He does that. He gets his guys up to play. And he takes advantage of a far less talented roster going up against Texas. So I give him a ton of credit. This is what football, I think, is the ultimate game where coaching can really make a huge difference. I know that the Jimmy's and Joe's does also make a difference whenever there's a huge gap for sure. But whenever you have a guy that can coach like this, and also, again, Indiana's coach, you got to give him credit. They had a very weak schedule, so I don't give him as much credit. But seeing what Arizona State did versus Texas, very, very impressed with their staff. Now let's talk about SMU. They have 25 blue chip caliber players. So we're starting to kind of pick it up with, getting a little bit closer to being comparable for playoff football. SMU is a school with a ton of money right there in Dallas, a whole lot of oil money, I think. It's a whole lot of billionaires out there. And we all know about how they did, what was that, back like in the 80s when they were paying players just like, crazy numbers, at least at that time. The numbers now would be laughable to us. But, yeah, they've got plenty of money. Now, I would not be surprised to see them be one of the powerhouse programs moving forward, because right now, with how college football is set up with NIL, with the transfer portal, if you got the funds, if you got the money, you can go out and build you a really nice roster. And I think that they're one of the programs that can do it. I'm not blown away by their coaching staff, but they did some nice things. We talked about them, actually. I think that might have been the first team that we talked about outside of Tennessee this season, because we watched them in the first game, maybe versus UNLV or versus one of those types of teams. Said, man, I wasn't overly impressed with them, but they were able to make it to the playoffs. So, you got to give them credit for that. So our Volunteers right here with 39 blue chip caliber players. So you see there's a huge jump from 25 to 39, right? But still is not on the level of some of these other programs. Right here we have Penn State. Looks like they would have 53 blue chip caliber players. So we go from 39 to 53. So now we're starting to see the difference in the talent, at least on paper. I think that Tennessee did have some players that were, upperclassmen that performed a lot better than maybe their star rating was, but it really wasn't too many of those, just in all honesty. But yeah, I mean, we had to continue to bring in more and more better players to be able to compete, but Penn State's at a pretty good spot. Now, Notre Dame, they're at 58 blue chip caliber players. Not a huge difference from Penn State. We'll see what they do tonight versus Georgia. I'm hoping that they win. Y'all already know that. But one of the things we talked about a couple of weeks ago, just in looking at their front on defense, I want to say they only have 2 or 3 guys that are over 290 pounds up front. Just as a point of reference, Tennessee has like 12 of those guys. And I want to say Georgia's like in that same ballpark. Typically, SEC is going to have more big dudes up front that can actually move and all that type of stuff. And I want to say that Notre Dame might have lost one of the players over 290, but Georgia doesn't run the ball a lot. They don't stick to the run, but also now they have Gunnar Stockton as their quarterback. They might want to stick to it more. That could be very deadly if Georgia wants to stick to it more, because while they were like, 100 and something as far as run offense, it's just because they weren't running it as much, because they're averaging over 5 yards per carry. If they stuck to it more, they could be one of the better running teams, I think, in the entire country. So we'll watch out for that in this game. But let's move on to the Oregon Ducks. They just lost last night. We all, we just talked about that. 56 blue chip caliber players. We all know that they got that Nike money. They should be able to go out and get whoever they want. Excuse me, huge difference from Tennessee's roster, but I think that Tennessee played maybe better than Oregon did in that game, in certain aspects. So if you go back to it, Oregon had negative 23 yards rushing, according to ESPN. Tennessee had 152 yards rushing, but we only had like 102 yards passing. And I want to say that Oregon might have had 200 something. It might have been close to like 300. So, they didn't look very good running the football. They also gave up 8 sacks. Tennessee gave up 4. So as much as we want to talk bad about our offensive line, theirs looked even worse. So, I mean, look, again, Ohio State, they're figuring things out, and they're playing with a whole lot of confidence. This one, I think, this one's probably a shocker. Clemson at number 4 out of the top 12 teams, the 12 teams that are in the playoffs. They have 52 blue chip caliber players on their roster still. So Dabo gets it, and Dabo recently, I believe, just fired his defensive coordinator. A lot of folks are saying, hey, Tim Banks is a guy that's been mentioned right there. Sounds like, there's other programs that want to try to get Tim Banks. I think that Tim Banks is a hell of a defensive coordinator. I don't like the lack of, switching things up at halftime. You've got to be able to manufacture pressure on the quarterback. If you can't get it with the front four, then you've got to start the blitz. That's just what it is. And I think that Tennessee had a roster that could have played good man-to-man coverage on the back end, especially whenever you're blitzing, because quarterbacks, like, they're not as good up under pressure. Every single one of them. You might be able to find 1 or 2 in their history. I mean, it might be more than that, but y'all get my point. We'll say maybe 1 or 2 quarterbacks that are currently playing on every single level that, are playing anywhere near, how they look without pressure versus pressure. It's rare that happens. So you bring the pressure, the passes are going to be errant. They might not even be able to go through all their reads. I think that's what you want to do. So anyway, I just want to kind of point that out. That's kind of my thoughts there. Doesn't mean that we can necessarily 100% upgrade at DC unless we can pry away Michigan's defensive coordinator. I like that. Bring that pressure. Bring it. So the next one's going to be Texas, and they have 61 blue chip caliber players. So you see that now we're starting to get to a different level right here. To me, that's speaks volumes about Coach Sark, who y'all know personally. I really like him. There's a lot of things that I like about him and his personality. There's some things that I don't necessarily love, but I think that he's a coach that kind of gets it. He's another one. I think a lot like Coach Heupel. You need some outside people to talk to you and like, hey, we don't need to go, play action to one side, fake the pass over here. Let's roll out again, and then let's fake it over here to the left, and then let's throw a screen. Like, you don't need, dude, get into some quick game stuff, because I don't know how much that'll work versus the Buckeyes. They have a good offensive line. I don't know. Like, do some plays that hit a little bit quicker. That's my thing right there. All right, let's go on right here. Now we have Ohio State, and they have 69 blue chip caliber players. The number 1 team is going to be the Georgia Bulldogs. They also have 69 blue chip caliber players. So even rosters. We played a lot better versus Georgia than we did versus the Buckeyes. Yeah, sometimes you have the talent in different places. That means some different things. I think that if you're talking about playmakers, for sure, listen, Ohio State, they got a lot more of those than Georgia does. Georgia tends to lean more on front 7 play, which is where I'm at with it. Like, you want to be able to lean on that, run the football, which Georgia hasn't done a very good job of this season. We talked about that. But anyway, that's kind of where we're at with that. So Tennessee, yeah, we need to improve on our roster. We need to go out and get more and more blue chip caliber players. We've lost several of them. I think it's fun to lose players that aren't of that ilk, but if they are of that ilk and if they're not producing, that's an indictment on the coaching. You got to do better as coaches in several different areas. You got to get these guys ready to play. But hopefully the staff understands that moving forward. So let me try to get to some more of these chats. Actually, I might start it. Listen, if you are a Buckeye fan, I will block you. I'll block you because I don't care, dog. I don't like y'all's whole fan base. All right, so I think that this next one is going to be from Chris Leith, saying Heupel needs to step up as a head coach now. If he is realizing these players don't look developed, needs to get In the face of the staff and coach them up, I don't think it's Pope. Okay, hey, that's a very interesting outlook on it. You could definitely be right. And I'm kind of with you on that because at the end of the day, it's all about the head guy or gal. It's all about the head person. Who's in charge? It's up to you to make sure that the coaches are doing what they're supposed to do. And then, excuse me, it's going to be up to those individual coaches to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do to get to the players. I'm not, huge on bashing on players because there's a lot of levels to it. Now, the players still have to do their part. You can't just come in and not do anything and think, oh, I'm going to blame the coaches for this. Like I'm not saying that, but it's a total team thing. It's a total organizational thing. Let's get to Corey Aldridge saying, I'm hearing Boo maybe getting some touches on offense next year. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard it. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty popular take. A lot of people are saying that. I mean, he's expected to. It kind of feels like he flirted around with the portal because he wanted to get some more snaps on offense. And, I kind of like players that are doing that. I kind of like the players that are, hey, look, I'm on defense, but the offense, they're not doing as well as I feel like they could do. Coach, put me in there. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something about that I love. Something about that confidence. You need a whole lot of that. That's a dog mentality. So, and two, I mean, everyone's kind of piggyback. Everyone's saying this, but I mean, Boo is probably going to be better on offense than he is on defense. And there's a lot of players. We kind of touched on Caleb Downs. I think he's a better offensive player than he is on defense. He's a lot better with the football in his hands. Who else? I think that Travis Hunter, really good on defense. And actually, what's that guy that's on ESPN that went to, I think he played for the Buckeyes. He was a wide receiver. I heard him have bring one of the baddest, one of the worst takes that I've ever heard in my life. He said that, Travis Hunter would just, he's not a very good wide receiver. What the hell are you talking about, dude? I think he's better at wide receiver than he is playing in the secondary. He's like, teams are going to figure out how to stop him just going deep and doing this and doing that. Buddy, there's only but so many routes that you can run. Like, there's only, it's playing wide receiver. It's really not that deep, dog. It's really not. It's a lot more difficult to play corner on every level of football. Once the ball starts to get thrown around, it's a lot more difficult to play corner than it is wide receiver. Know that. Those are facts. Defense is a lot more difficult to play from top to bottom than offense is. Maybe outside of quarterback, because quarterback has to know what all 22 players are doing, offense and defense. You got to know what everybody's doing, and then you got to be able to execute and all that. So I don't want to go off on a tangent right there, but my whole point is, yeah, Travis Hunter he's a better wide receiver, and he can play wide receiver in the league. Like, he just won the trophy for the best wide receiver in the country. What? But you said he's not a good wide receiver. That was he's sipping on a whole lot of haterade with that one, because that's a really, really bad take, in my opinion. All right, let's come on down. Let's get some more. Mike Harmon, what's going on, Mike? He's saying that he agrees with MG Way. I believe most of the problem is being recruited over and not wanting to work for your position. So, dang, I apologize, MG, if I missed you, brother. Okay, so let me go ahead and get to this. I apologize. I did not mean to skip over this. So, MG is saying, I completely disagree. I think there's something to the negative rumors about Kelsey Pope. Okay, so he thinks there is something to it. I don't know. I don't know, and I don't know who he's disagreeing with, because I didn't say that there was nothing to it. Okay, so maybe he's talking about Garrett Willis. So I missed several of them. He said no, he left because he wants to play for Kelsey Pope. Okay, so either way, yeah, I think that there is. Listen, where there's smoke, there is fire. So we will see. Also from Garrett Willis saying you need good coaches. We don't have them. I don't know that we don't have any good coaches. I think we have several good coaches. I think we have several good players too. We're not that far away. Obviously, some people probably feel better that Oregon went out and kind of got blown out the same way that Tennessee did versus the Buckeyes. I'm not really one of those people necessarily, just because for me it's about, I want to be the best, and whoever the best is, if that ends up being Ohio State, for us to be 28 points, away from them, for there to be that much separation, that's a pretty sizable margin. But even still, football is a game of inches. You miss a little fit here and there, that's 6 or 7 points. If that happens over and over again, then all of a sudden, the score looks a lot more drastic than it actually is. Please don't get it twisted. I still believe in Coach Heupel. I still believe in a lot of the people on this staff. I think that we have the right idea, but that's not to say that we don't need to make some changes. Some changes do need to be made. We still got to continue to get better. because if you don't get better, you're just going to be, you don't ever stay the same. You either get better or you get worse. So if you're not getting better, then you're getting worse. We've got to get better. And I think that we've got to do it in an exponential way to be able to catch up. Right. So, that could be from going out and finding some better players, but also, and I think having some fresh ideas offensively, especially, but then too on defense. We talked about it. You can't just sit back. You got to pressure the quarterback. You have to do that. And if you can't do it with 4, then you need to bring 5. If you can't do it with 5, then bring 6, then bring 7, and then bring 8, so on and so forth until you're getting the pressure. But it's very, very difficult to stop quarterbacks, to stop the passing game period these days when, listen, these players have been, playing 7-on-7 from the time they're like 5 and 6 years old now. So they're very good at it. You can't let them play 7-on-7. You got to make them play real football. So you got to bring pressure and make sure that that's happening. So a lot of changes do need to be made, but I think that I would have to disagree. I think that we do have some good coaches on this staff. Can we upgrade in some spots? For sure. All right. From Go Big Orange, Kyle B saying he was in the 24/7 portal yesterday, and they said that was false. Yeah, I think that he's in for sure at this point. From Chris Leith saying, I believe Boo will play some offense next year. Might explain why he wanted to hit the portal, because he wanted some playing time on offense. Yeah, I don't know if Boo is ever really going to hit the portal, because Boo loves Tennessee, but he used his leverage. Maybe the same thing, maybe similar to what Nico did. I don't know if he was ever going to actually hit the portal, but he used his leverage to see what was going on to try to make some changes. But let's see. Can we get to some new people here? And I appreciate those of y'all that are sending multiple chats in. From Steve, I don't really want to try to pronounce your last name because I don't want to butcher it, but you have 2 years of experience. That indicates Pope is a problem. Yeah, I think a lot of folks are kind of feeling that way. From Jimmy Burnett, Go Big Orange, I concur with that. From Will Dry, I'm with you on Mike. It's not all about immediate money. He drives a $140,000 Mercedes. Oh yeah, I've seen pictures of that AMG. That thing looks good. I think the money aspect comes in when he looks at his potential for the next level under. Okay, yeah. So I think that he is probably looking more at the long term of everything. For Michael Wilkins, get some dogs in that room again. Yeah, and we got to start spelling dogs. Like whenever we're talking about dogs, that's not a DAWG dog. That's a DOG dog, because DAWG is a Georgia Bulldog. Those are not real dogs. I just want to throw that out there. I just want to throw that out there. We got to stop doing that. We got to stop giving them credit where, I know we're not doing it on purpose or anything like that. But from, excuse me, from Jimmy Burnett, kids will go after the money. Expect that. Yeah, I think that you have to expect that. I think that everyone, it's not just kids. I mean, pretty much all of us, if you can do what you're doing and get paid more doing it, this is a capitalist system, baby. That is America. That's how this country was built. And that's how we thrive. It's a capitalist system. So, that's pretty much what it is. So from D. Taylor, wide receivers are divas. That's a fact. Most of them are. It was true when I played. I'm sure NIL has made it 1,000 times worse. I cannot argue against that. I think that that's an excellent point, D. I think that especially too, it's not even just with the NIL, but also with the transfer portal. When hey, man, everyone wants me and I can go. So that can make you even more of a diva, which is why you see more wide receivers in the portal than anything else. But that's not to say that we can just go out and necessarily replace Mike Matthews, just because Mike Matthews is different. He's a very good football player. I want to make sure that y'all understand that. Okay. Oh, this one's pretty interesting. From Go Big Orange Kyle B saying, that's funny. I've seen Squirrels visiting Florida State today. Yeah, so we just talked about the wide receiver from Florida State potentially. We're trying to bring him up on a visit. Squirrel White's going to Florida State. And look, I wish all of our guys, I wish them all the best. Them leaving. I think that with Mike Matthews, I'm a little bit more frustrated, but I wish him well. I am a little bit more frustrated because he was going to be the guy next season, and it feels like he doesn't want to come back. I'm not trying to bash him by any means, but I am a little bit frustrated, and hey, we'll see where he ends up at. From Money Controls It All, had to change my card info. Okay, all right, we ain't gonna read all that off. Let's come on to Ethan Kirkland saying that they could hire a passing game coordinator and maybe upgrade the wide receiver coach, depending on the guys they could get, would be the best case to me. Excuse me. I think so. I think that sometimes change can be a very positive thing, but we got to make the correct changes. And I trust Coach Heupel. Well, I'm not at full trust at this point, but I would say that my trust level is a little bit higher that he will make the correct changes necessary than it was coming off of our previous game. I would say at that point I was at about maybe 50%. Now I'm probably at about 75% that I, think that he will make the correct changes, but we still got to see it. If he does, if he goes out and hires somebody from out, like on the offensive side, from outside of his tree, or somebody that's not new, somebody that's actually been coached under, a whole different offensive scheme and stuff, that's saying a lot to me. And that's just me. That doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It's just my own personal opinion. I would love to see that person. I would love to see that, because to me that says that, hey, he is willing to make the changes necessary for us to, get to a national championship level. And again, even though we're far off, it's not as far as maybe some people think. So let's talk. Let's get to Richie Dubs right here. What's going on, Richie Dubs? Saying, "Hey, boy, how'd that Oregon pick work out for you?" Okay, yeah. So I'm about to go ahead and block you too, man. Just because. Thank you for chiming in, but I'm gonna go ahead and get you on up off here. So, Ohio State fans, I don't even want to see y'all back on here, period, point blank, because like I said, I don't like y'all. How did it work out for me? Look, y'all's team looks really good, but how the hell did the Michigan game go for you for the past 4 seasons? I probably shouldn't have blocked you first, but maybe somebody who's friends with them, y'all can tell them what I said. All right. How did that work out for you? How does it work out for you when you should have won? I mean, I'm gonna say at least two national championships over the past 4 seasons, because your roster has been really good. It's been a top 2 roster for quite some time. How did it work out not winning all those? And you might not win it again this season. To me, if you don't win it again this year, that's embarrassing. I mean, like, you should win it. You should. I still think that you probably won't. I think that at some point you're going to end up losing to somebody, just because Ryan Day might take back over and mess everything up. All right, let me get to Mike Harmon. Everyone hit Bull up on social media. Work hard to bring you some info. Thank you for that. Yeah, please do hit us up on social media. So we are at the Bluechip BD on Twitter, or on X, formerly known as Twitter. And then on IG, we are at Bluechip Breakdown. So yeah, that would be huge. Please do give us a follow on social media. That helps us grow tremendously. D. Taylor is talking to Richie Dubs. Yeah, so I'm glad that we was on the same page, man. We had to get him. We had to get him on up out of here, man. Because, and I'm gonna kind of skip past those of y'all that was talking back to Richie, because I man, look, we on the same page. I know how you feel. It gets annoying. From Dan Faulkner saying, if you have 1 or 2 players leaving, it's a player issue. If you have 8, it's a coaching issue. I cannot disagree with you on that. Heupel is on the edge of losing total control. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that. Because you have to look everywhere else. The offensive line is intact. Our defensive line is intact. The linebacker room looks good. Yes, some players left, but we got some good ones coming in. Secondary room looks really good. There hasn't been a whole lot of smoke there. And our 2 cornerbacks, they both could have made a whole bunch of noise, but they didn't do that. They wanted to stay here. They wanted to be a part of this. Running back room, yeah, we lost a couple of bodies that we didn't need to. So pretty much everything is intact. The running back room is a place that, hey, we can go on and, find us another one. We talked about Angel Johnson earlier. The wide receiver room, I think that that's just one. I don't think that that is the sign of a coach that's about to lose control of his entire team. I don't think that that's happening. Coach Heupel, I think he's doing some great things. I've heard some great things about him behind the scenes. I continue to hear from a lot of different people, whether they end up at Tennessee or not. Everyone has really good things to say about Coach Heupel. So that is a very positive thing. He can get it done, y'all. I still have confidence. He just has to do it. I just want to see him do it. You got to make a few changes. You got to kind of think outside the box in a few places. And if we do that, then we'll be fine. Can we go out and supplement wide receiver room through the portal? We're going to have to. We're going to have to go out and find some guys. Can we necessarily be as talented? I don't know that, but will we have more guys that buy in? Can we kind of handle things in a different way where we're playing more underclassmen and giving them a chance? Because if you play them early on, what we've seen with some of these higher caliber players, you play them early on, they take their lumps early on. But at the end of the season, when it counts, if you find ways to win up to that point, whenever it counts, now you've got more people that you can count on. That's where we have to get to. That's one of my biggest issues. You gotta rotate in. So Coach Polk, Coach Sims, you gotta rotate in bodies. I think Coach E, you got to do a much better job of developing the players that you've brought in. Okay. I would say with Coach Banks, you got to blitz more. You got to get pressure on the quarterback. So not to continue to beat up, the same talking points, but that's where I'm at. I don't want for people to think that this channel is about, hey, we don't believe in this staff. We don't believe in these players, because it's the total opposite. We totally believe in them. And that's why we're going to be so hard at this point, because our expectations are going to be very, very high. And we're going to have the same expectations that they have, like if they hold themselves to a certain standard, who are we as fans that want to, have their back to not do the exact same thing? That's where we're coming from. So yeah, we expect championships with an S because that's what they expect. So we're gonna hold them to the standard. We ain't just gonna be, hey, it's all right. You know, we won 10 games, we went into the playoffs. We're just happy to be a part of something. That's not us on this channel. It's fine if you feel that way. We're not gonna bash you for it, but that's not us. So don't bash us for how we feel. You know what I'm saying? All right, let me get to some more of these. Excuse me, y'all. Oh, this is a new person right here from Brian R. Facts. FSU is intolerable. Yeah, they've got a really bad fan base. They're very difficult to get along with. But I'm going to tell you, Michigan fans are the exact same way. Like, they are the same way. They will get on your nerves, too. I'm not, I'm about Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really have too much favor with any other fan base. That's just me. I'm not going to be buddy with it. Look, we can call like a truce or something for this game if we both hate this team. But after that, I don't, y'all go to y'all's page because I'm not coming to your page. Y'all stay on y'all's page. The only reason I would go to their page is just for research purposes to bring more information to our volunteers. But I'm not going to be interacting with y'all because I'm about Tennessee. That's it. Lamone's Jr. saying Georgia fans are terrible. No doubt. Georgia fans are the worst, though. Georgia fans are right. I mean, look, I think Buckeye fans for me are starting to kind of they're getting close. But man, it's like they're bad almost on like different spectrums. You know what I'm saying? Like on different sides of the spectrum. I feel like Georgia's bad. It's horrible this way, and Ohio State is horrible that the other way. That's just my thoughts, though. Okay, let me try to get to some more. This is from JL. Said that dude was probably 12 years old. Yeah. That there's a whole lot of that whenever you're on the internet. From Brian R saying ASU coach is a dog. Yeah, he is. I like him a lot, man. I love coaches like that. I think the Coach Heupel, like he puts me in mind of like a younger Coach Heupel. Like that's the Coach Heupel that we got going forward on fourth and kind of like long stuff and just, hey, we're gonna let it all hang out. I love that. I love that type of energy. I want for Coach Heupel to get back to that. You know what I'm saying? So from G4 saying Ohio State looks good, but I'm calling my shot. Texas beat them in Jerry World. Hey, that's a good point because they are Texas is going to be playing at home. We just looked at it. Texas has a roster that's comparable to the Buckeyes. Can they outcoach Ryan Day? I don't know if they're going to be having to outcoach Ryan Day. It's more about can you outcoach the offensive and the offensive coordinator and then Knowles on a defense because they've been doing some really nice things. But I think that, man, look. That's a game that a lot of folks would probably be picking against Texas. Those are the types of games that Sark will win. If you're picking against them, they tend to win those games. It's like whenever you pick with them, that's when they tend to not come out right. But Sark is a dog. I want to see them win. I hope that does happen. Let's see what D. Taylor's saying about ASU. So ASU impressed me, expected them to get blown out, but they fought hard. Yeah, man. I was very, very impressed. I've been impressed with them for a while. You know what I'm saying? That's the coaching aspect of this whole thing. From Cooper McCrary saying Ohio State let an opposing fan base take over their city/stadium in the playoffs. That's a big fact. Tells us everything we need to know about their fan base. Those are all facts. I agree with that 100%. All right, let's try to get down to some more of these towards the end. If we can find some other people that we haven't really gotten to. I'm gonna try to screen them too before we read them off. Let's see. And then we're gonna go on ahead and call this a day, man. Oh, wait a second. I missed another super chat. I apologize for this. So this is from Money Controls It All for $1.99. Thank you so much. If you make it there, don't read my next chat. Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you for letting me know. As a matter of fact, I know exactly who that is. Appreciate that, brother. I know exactly who that is. Thank you for letting me, thank you for giving me that heads up as well. Okay. So let me see. I'm going to make sure that I don't read that one off on air. All right. So let's see about this one right here from Ryan. Ryan is saying it feels like Heupel has just been sitting on the whole offseason with little to no moves while letting his players leave. Anything hopeful you know of right now? So you might have to go back to the start of this video, but we did talk about three guys that Tennessee is targeting inside of the transfer portal. I would say that those are probably pretty hopeful. Obviously, it's to me, you want to get them up on campus once the visits get set up. Things look a whole lot better. But listen, we're gonna go find players. I know that we're gonna do that. We've got the money, we've got the funds, and it does kind of I've heard some things. It sounds like Tennessee wants to spend more with some of the upper echelon in the transfer portal this season, which obviously we would have to do. So I feel fine about it. There's not any huge names, but it would be nice, I think, at wide receiver to add one dynamic playmaker, whether that's inside or outside. I think that you want to do that for sure. It'd be nice to maybe do both at this point with Mike Matthews leaving. But I think that Braylon Staley playing inside of the slot, he's a guy that can also play outside, but I think that he could be very special too. So we've got some good players. We just got to give them the chance to make things happen. For me, it's more about, and this is something that P said yesterday, it's more about our scheme. Get the scheme right, and wide receivers and skilled players is pretty much a dime a dozen. Maybe focus a little bit more on making sure that the offensive line is right, and we can figure it all out. This right here is from Rogue saying 20 plus million spent on players. You'd hope they win it all. Yeah, talking about the Buckeyes, yeah, I mean they most definitely should be able to win it all. But I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because they've had very talented rosters for a while. I just don't know. All right, let's get to this one right here from Let's Go Guy saying we need to make tons of changes if the same next season, then it's time to start making changes. But we might have a chance of a natty. Josh is a good coach. We just need to make changes. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, we definitely need to make those changes. Let's get to Jacob Bumbalo. I hope that I'm saying your name correct. Saying, hey, I just got in here, so Mike Matthews isn't coming back. That's my take on it. I believe that he's officially in the transfer portal at this point. Everything that the insiders have said is that if he does hit the portal officially, then he's probably not coming back. And I kind of feel that exact same way, because if it was true that he was only entertaining the portal because he didn't know what Nico was going to do once he knew that Nico was coming back, he still hasn't taken his name out of the portal, and it does feel like, okay, there was something else going on. So it really wasn't even about Nico, in my opinion. It was about some other stuff. We don't know what that other stuff is. We can speculate all day long. But so, yeah, I think that Mike Matthews is probably going to be gone. All right, let's get to just a few more here, y'all. From Charles Tolston saying, bring back Leacock. I concur with that. I would love to go bring him back. Get two dudes out of the portal and the guys we got and roll with that. Poe, you are on the clock. Hey, I love what you just said right there. I think that we are on the exact same page. I don't know if I could have said it any better myself. Yeah, bring back guys like Nathan Leacock to help us out on the outside. Bring in one more outside presence just for depth purposes and let them compete for a starting spot there. And then bring in maybe another slot just for, again, depth purposes or, whatever, right? Because if you're bringing a guy like Zach Branch, he's probably going to be your starter. But that's not to take anything away from Braylon Staley, who I think is also very good. But you do want that depth because people do get injured and stuff playing football. So, and knock on wood, we hope that never happens. But it always happens. You know what I'm saying? And then, yeah, I don't know if you necessarily want to fire Coach Pope at this point, but yeah, I would say that he is on the clock. You got to make some changes. Give him the chance to make the changes because I think that he wants to win. I think that everyone on this coaching staff wants to win. I think they're all really good coaches. Some of them are young and they're just learning. And this might just be like a learning moment for Coach Pope. But if he learns, he could end up being the best wide receivers coach in the entire country. So, yeah. Give him the talent and, make the changes with him and put him on the clock. Say, look, you gotta execute. You got to execute this season or, we're going to find somebody else. I agree with that. All right. So let me see. Who else do we have? So from this one, from Dad Boy Crazy says, what is really going on with Mike Matthews and why is Heupel afraid of making coaching changes? Yeah. So we just kind of touched on all of that. All right, and we'll get to this one. Let's say that. Let me get to this one right here from Money Controls It All saying Branch boys look good, especially the wide receiver. I know we need another running back. Doesn't have to be a big name, but if possible, why not? The only reason that I would say why not is because we have two true freshmen that just came in. We've got Peyton Lewis, who would be a sophomore, I think, next season. You don't want to discourage them, and then Bishop, unless he has a great season like Dylan Sampson did, which he definitely could, he's probably going to want to come back one more year. You don't want to discourage what you already have. I think that's why. I think that's why you don't go out and get big names at that position because we've got guys coming in, and we don't want to have a similar situation where we're having right now with the wide receiver room. So I think that would be why. So going on to the next part of your question, Need a few more offensive line guys. I think that we could maybe use another one just to be safe. LB's on the clock too. No development got to go. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna get to just a couple more right here. So from Ryan saying Georgia without Beck is going to be better in my opinion, 100%. What's y'all's predictions? Yeah, I think that Georgia is going to be a lot better without Carson Beck. I think that man, Georgia's the luckiest team. Everything that goes on with them, everything, it just seems like, I don't know. You know, P said this before. He was like, man, it's like Kirby Smart sold a soul or something. You know, he thought that his little contract had run out because he won back-to-back national titles. Hopefully that is true. I want to see Notre Dame win. I don't know. I think that in some ways Notre Dame matches up well versus Georgia on paper. But, you know, I think that Georgia is the much more talented team. And I think that they probably have the better coaching staff. As much as I hate to say this, Kirby Smart, he knows how to coach. He knows how to, if you give him time, he's going to be ready. So we'll see what happens right there. And actually, that one right there, you know what? We're going to end on that. So I apologize if I did not get to your chats, but hopefully next time, just try to get in here early because we do our best to read the top few chats. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. And if you're watching this on the on the rewatch, then just leave your comments down in the comment section. But as always, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I hope that y'all have a great rest of your Thursday, and we will see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.